My name's Jeff Clark. I am the CX Strategy Officer at MicroChannel, and today I'll be joined by Nigel Bradley, our Service Delivery Manager. So let's jump into Dynamics 365 Customer Insights. Okay, so the real big issue that we have today when we think of our organisations, our businesses, is the number of ways a consumer or a B2B prospect can engage with our company is exponential. It's just continually growing. When we think about consumer marketing, it's on average 6 different touch points that consumers will engage with before they'll make a purchase with your company. For B2B buyers, the marketing funnel has become much longer and more complex. In fact, today we don't even call it a funnel, it's called a life cycle. And that life cycle can be very, very complex. The reason everything's more complex, as you know, is we are using more digital channels than ever before. So I wanted to quickly sort of highlight a B2B journey here from Gartner. And you can see here that there is a lot of activity as we move through problem identification, solution exploration, understanding requirements, and supplier selection. It's not a linear process. The process is moving all around the place. And think about it in the B2B buying journey, it's not just one person doing this, it's many, many people. So as mentioned, we're doing more and more digitally. This is just giving you an example. We're virtually here today. We're checking out more reviews and ratings of solutions. We want to know those sources. We're checking out social media. We're doing searches. There's our own sites, websites, and so much more. So when you stop and think about it, there is so much that we engage in today. There's your traditional channels, SMS and email and websites and so forth. And then there's all the other channels. So in consumer marketing, it can be e-commerce and in-store and retail point of sales. Very complex for us to try to understand. And as I mentioned before, it's a very wide buying group to understand what's happening, what are the requirements and needs, and what actions we really need to take. And it becomes even more complex when we start thinking about all the content that we have to produce and track across all those different channels as well. And the output of all that is we have a lot of data to deal with, right? So we have all our structured data, but in the last 3 years, we've had a 90% increase in the amount of unstructured data. So structured data is the data that we can capture and organize, and unstructured data is coming from all these different sources that's not as predefined. So it's there, but we need to make sense of it, right? It's created by all these different channels and activities and behaviors. And so that rise in structured and semi-structured data creates a massive problem if we really want to be able to compete in market and to be able to properly target and personalize our experiences for our prospects and our customers to keep our customers as well. So it means there are trillions of buying signals everywhere. So the buying signals are what we need to understand to do something about it. When you think about it, it is that oh my God moment, and that is why a number of years ago, the concept of customer data platforms was created. They've been around now for probably 4 or 5 years, and they were deliberately created to solve that problem of all that data, the unstructured and structured data, and make sense of it so that businesses can actually automate and personalize those experiences as we move forward. And the challenge is if you're not actually hearing those signals that we talked about, then you're missing out on the sale. You're missing out on the cues, the challenges that customers are really looking for. And there are a number of customers who are really, really pushing the boundaries about understanding what's happening with their customers and their prospects, and they're getting amazing results through this process. So to sort of summarize what we're really talking about, we need some sort of way to bring all this data together and make sense of it related to a customer profile or a group of customers, an account if you're in B2B marketing, and then make it actionable. So the way Microsoft has been thinking about this is Microsoft is thinking about all those different behaviors and events occurring across your customer base, what your employees are generating and doing, all your products and offerings and services, all your operational data, which could be obviously around service delivery or other things, or and so forth, and then finding ways to try to unlock that data so that you can be more successful. And that's why Microsoft created Dynamics 365 Customer Insights. So Customer Insights is a customer data platform, can work with any technology stack that you've got today. But really, this is really showing how it can bring together all that information across all your different parts of the business and make it valuable information to action. Finally, this slide just kind of shows on the left-hand side, you can see all the internal data that we're capturing, and then all the external data that we could bring in. And it's infinite in the amount of sources, as I mentioned before. And what Dynamics 365 does, through really simple standard connectors, it brings that data together and matches that against the customer record so that you can then further enrich it, do analytics segmentation, and then make it actionable, right? Through whether or not you want to understand what's happening in your market, or you want to create a workflow or automation to drive that personalization through all the different channels and interactions that your business has with your customers today. So with that, the final piece to understand is it's just joining those dots so that a customer will have a consistent experience across all the way from being a lead right through to sales and back and forth. So it's not a linear journey, as I mentioned. The marketing know what the right cues are and what content should be served at the right time, and then when to pass it on to sales. And sales know the right things to be talking to the right person about at the right time, and what things would be helpful for them. And then, of course, customer service is if there's a support case or a contact center, the contact center knows exactly what's going on, and so does the rest of the business. If there's a challenge or an issue, they can see that and they can actually do something about it and have meaningful conversations and support your customers, which drives retention and obviously customer lifetime value, which is really what it's all about. Finally, we're just having a quick look at what Customer Insights looks like. We're going to dive into the demo in a second, but really the output is about finding those quick segments, building those quickly, and then actioning those. And here we can see just a couple of segments, high earning, health conscious shoppers as an example. And you can create whatever segments you like, because all the data from any source is in there and totally matched to a contact record. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Nigel. He's going to dive deeply into the product and give you an idea of exactly what it looks like and what's it all about. Over to you, Nigel.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so it is really great to see how this technology can actually be taken and used, and bringing different pieces of disparate data together in ways that we haven't been able to do before. And you know, historically, if an organisation like our customers wanted to do this type of thing, we had to do integration with ERPs and CRMs, bringing ERP information into CRM in order for us to actually have that 360-degree view of that customer. And then being able to use that from a marketing automation perspective. But this platform really does enable us to have that middleware of being able to bring together disparate pieces of or databases or data sources, and bringing those together in order for us to gather that whole picture of our customer. So you can see in my screen here, I've got Customer Insights open, and very simple, I suppose, visualization, but on my home screen, I can see some of the segmentations that I have set up. But how do I do all of this? What is this actually giving me, and how do I actually, what does this actually mean? Well, in essence, the main thing that we're doing with Customer Insights is bringing together disparate pieces of data. And we do that by setting up our data sources. So you can see here, I'm bringing in to Customer Insights 3 or 4 data sources: my CRM, my transactional information from my ERP, a survey system, and also a ticketing system. So these could be any different type of system that your customer or your organization might use. whether they be Excel spreadsheets, whether they be any type of data sources, SQL databases. We can surface that information in Dynamics Customer Insights and allow us to then map that to each set of data to give us that picture. So taking our data sources, we can then start to look at what entities we are actually building within that and have access to within that, that data set. But the key thing with this is when we start to unify data. And this is when we say, right, my customer from my CRM is my account in the ERP, and they're also the contact within the ticketing system. We can then start to map that together and to then match information so that we start to create that relationship with all of my different pieces of disparate information and then start to bring that together. What does that then allow me to do? So I've got my matches, I've got my data sources, I'm starting to then see that. I can then take that and very simply, as Jeff indicated before, start to create some segmentation. So using my ERP data, I can then start to see mapped with my CRM data, customers with online purchases. I can then start to use my CRM data to look at customers with complaints. I can create any different type of segmentation based on any of the data points that I have within my data sources. As I drill into that, I can then see each of those segments and I can then start to see who are the members within that particular record. So a very, very powerful tool for us to be able to drill into and see that dynamic data coming from disparate data sources. I suppose the key last thing there for us is within this tool, I can then start to see all of my unique customers. And this is the key for the whole of this product, is to be able to then see and bring together and start to see a complete picture of a particular customer, whether they be surfacing data from my CRM, mapping that to my ERP. I can now start to see the transactions that they've actually had, their total spend. I can start to create this dashboard that really gives us that picture of the customer, seeing where they've, what views they've had on our CRMs, what complaint tickets have we actually had. So never before have we been able to so simply be able to have across disparate data sources a complete view of our customers. This is when we can then start to, as Jeff indicated before, take those data sources, use that unification tool within Customer Insights, and we can then start to use that from an analytics perspective by using those segmentations and the data within Power BI or Microsoft Flow that we can then send notifications to those customers, or even in Power Apps to be able to surface other information for other purposes. But the key thing in this is that we have actions. We have now got organized data with a strategy that we can use in other applications and be more informed as to why we're actually doing that. So that is the real key as to why we use Customer Insights and what that can actually do for us.